next session for today. And the next session is going to be handled by Dr. Yankee Hartijasti. And Dr. Yankee is affiliated with the Department of Management, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Indonesia. She has an MBA degree from the University of the Philippines and a Master of Science and doctorate degrees in Industrial and Organizational Psychology from Universitas Indonesia. After 15 years of experience in industry, she is moved into academia where she has contributed locally and internationally in teaching, supervision, and examining master's and doctoral theses. She has also engaged actively in scientific and applied research and collaborated with colleges in Indonesia and overseas. Much of her work has been published, and her peer-reviewed outputs have been shared at international seminars and conferences. Recently, she has published a book that is Resilient in the Midst of the Pandemic, Learning from Bacteria, with her colleague, a professor in the field of microbiology. Very much happy to have you among us, ma'am. Handing over the session to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Allow me to share my screen.
Yeah. A quick hi to Dr. Yankee. Thank you for being here. I've got another meeting. With your permission, can I move, ma'am?
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you, Professor
Yeah,
Rajan.
it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, can you please increase your volume a little? Your volume is down.
I haven't talked a lot. I'm still mumbling. I'm looking for my presentation. Wait a minute, because what should I do? Should I present in a tab or an entire screen? It's a bit confusing, you know. Entire screen? Is it?
Yes, ma'am, you can share the screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
Okay. So, is it moving?
Yes, ma'am.
It's moving, yeah. Okay, good. Okay then. Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce again myself. I'm Yankee Hartijasti from University of Indonesia, Faculty of Economics and Business. Today, I'm going to share about academic writing, even though I'm sure that it's been shared by the other speakers as well. But this time, I'm going to share with you the tips on how to write a good one. Yeah. Okay, let me start by stating about the research process, especially when you want to write journal articles, research paper, or dissertation. Are you sure that you can see my slide moving? Is it moving? Hello. It's moving, yeah? Okay then. So research process involves interaction with other people, especially your supervisor, your classmates, or your colleagues, yeah, your peer researcher, or others. It is a largely solitary process and progress may seem very slow. That's why it needs motivation, a good communication. So your communication with your supervisor, your peer researcher, etc. And then it's also a new process. And it has its distinctive style, forms of expression, and vocabulary. And of course, because we need academic writing skill, which you can learn. And how to learn it? Of course, first of all, you have to read, read, and read. The writing style in when you are writing the academic writing can also be learned, yeah, from a number of good quality of journals. Yeah. So you start writing, writing, and writing. So in this case, in this process, the supervisor's role is that he or she cannot give you an exact and precise answer to every question that you ask him or her. Yeah? So he or she can only give advice on academic content of the thesis. So don't expect too much from him. So for example, if your supervisor give you advice and then you follow really what's that word per word, it's your fault because the research is your baby. You know better than your supervisor. So he or she just give you advice and then you just make sure that does it fit, that the advice fit your study or not. Yeah, it's your choice. Therefore, you as the student or the researcher should be responsible for the thesis quality. So this is the process from the beginning until the deadline in a analog, yeah, in a cartoon way to make you easy to understand. First of all, when you're writing your abstract or your introduction or the objective of the research, you make it so detailed, very much detailed. Look at this horse back, the back of the horse, it's so detailed. Later on, it becomes a little bit less detailed when you're writing about the literature review and the methods. So thus, when you write the results, so after you're doing the analysis, data analysis, maybe you got exhausted, then it is lesser and lesser until the end when you make the discussion, you do the conclusion, the reference. It's because it's the deadlines already approaching, then it looks different. It's supposed to be a horse, but it looks something else. This is what happened. Usually we just put, so I just want to finish, I put everything there, and then without realizing that it's totally different. Therefore, I'm going to give you the tips, yeah, on this academic writing. But before that, I'm going to share with you some of the most common weaknesses in academic writing. So usually, there's an absence of a clearly stated research question. Yeah, so it's not clear. It's just very vague. Yeah, so that's why usually it's rejected right away by the journal. And then lack of argument developed in response to research question. Yeah, even though you have a very good research question, if you don't have a good argument, it's also not good. And then failure to identify the central issue when writing the abstract and introduction. Yeah, so especially because I'm also a part of the reviewer. Yeah, so usually students or the researcher, they just write or just copy paste from the thesis or the dissertation, copy, cut and paste, and then it doesn't make sense. Yeah, there's no flow. Yeah, that's why the central issue is missing. Then failure to identify a target audience. So who are your target audience? You have to identify first so that you know that how to write it in their way of thinking. Yeah. And then insufficient explanation of the significance of the research. Yeah. So maybe you think that you think that the audience know the topic well, so You just make it very, very simple, very short, and later on they don't understand at all. And inclusion of irrelevant material. So sometimes we want to make a bit, we want the readers to perceive that we know everything. So we put everything too much. That's also not good. Yeah, and something not related as well. That's not good. And then excessive details in the supporting data. Yeah, too much is not good. Too little also not good. It has to be just right. Yeah, brief but clear. And then failure to provide adequate support for the argument. Yeah. So whatever is your argument, you should have a support. Yeah. Don't just say that it is based on so many journals. I found that this topic is blah blah blah, but you have to have a support. Okay. Now we go to the academic writing. So usually in the academic writing, there's a title and abstract, introduction or research background, then literature review, research methods, results and discussion, conclusion, and reference. Let me start by sharing it to the title and abstract. The title, it should be brief but informative. And it should relate directly to the main objective of the proposed research. It should be sufficient detail, but not excessive information. Let me give you an example. Yeah. So maybe the topic, I'm thinking about a topic like elderly patient. Okay, then oh, it's too broad. And then I do my brainstorming, maybe talk to my friend or maybe talk to myself. Then I put another thing, the care of elderly patients. So I said, okay, it's more focused. Yeah, not only elderly patients, because there are a lot of things surrounding elderly patients, right? So the care of elderly patients, maybe not so focused yet. So then you want to talk about in the hospital. Yeah. Okay, that's good enough. Then we got another idea with psychological problem. So it's again more focus, right? This is about the title, yeah. And then ethnographic study. So it's the method. You put also the method, yeah. Ethnographic study of the care of elderly patient with psychological problems in hospital. Sounds good, but I also have something in the community. I want to know also how is it done in the community. So you want to make a comparative between the hospital and in the community. Sound good. And then how about if it is male elderly patient? Oh, so it's really, really detailed, right? Then you have no more idea. It is start. This is the start that you choose which one is the best and which one can what's that, accommodate your research. Yeah. So from this, which one do you think you will choose? If you are the one, which one do you think you choose? And anybody wants to say, just say the number. I cannot see the chat, yeah, because I can only see my slides, so I cannot see the chat. Can you just say something? Maybe number 1, number 2, number 7, number 6, number 4. Anybody? Hello. You can see my slides with the title, right? Can you?
Definitely number 7.
Again?
7.
7. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Only one? How many are we now? I think I saw maybe more than 40, right? Anybody else? Just say. There's no wrong and a right answer here. We just want to discuss, interact, right? If you or me, I'm going to talk about this one and then which one do you want to choose? You're sleeping already? Okay then. I will just give you the answer. It's number 5. Because you know what? Number 7 is not wrong, yeah. But as at the moment, it's better to talk about number 5 because uh, it's just right. It's the method, it's ethnographic study, and it's about the care of elderly patient with psychological problem in the hospital only. This time in the hospital first. When you finish and then it's already published, then you can continue make a comparison with the one in the community. And later on, when it's another paper, right? And later on, you can also do the mail all the way. So there are already 3. Yeah. If you finish everything, you got 3 papers. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that your answer 7 is wrong. Yeah? It's just in the later because if you do 7 right away, it will take a long time and it's a bit complicated. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
Yeah.
Shall I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you told I can do further research regarding the comparative study. So at that moment, can I use it 6 or 7 as my title?
Again, afterward.
You said after choosing 5 for the further study, further research, you can choose the comparative study.
Mm-mm.
At that moment, shall I use 7 as my choice?
You can, but you have to also think that will it be because if it is just male, yeah, it will just be male. Will it be limited? So your patient because this one will be qualitative, right? So your participant will it be limited because it's it's the patient with psychological problem and not many people are willing to be your participant. Yeah. So it will be very limited and then you will have a hard time to find the participant and your research will be taking a bit longer. So can you wait for it? Yeah. It's up to you. If you want, it's okay. Yeah. But I suggest if you want to start a bit faster, you can choose 5. You focus on 5 very deep, yeah. So it has to be deep, yeah. And then later on, you can, when it's already published, yeah, it's already published in a good reputation journal, then you can cite your article as your another paper when you make a comparative study, something like that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I got it. Now I got it. Thank you very much.
Okay. So this title, this it should describe the breadth and depth of the topic, yeah, and indicate the methodology to be used. Like the one number 5, it's ethnographic study. That's the method, right? So if necessary, if it is too long, maybe we can use a title and a subtitle. And then the abstract. So the abstract should be concisely state the research problem, the main objectives, theoretical approach or conceptual framework, research method, significance of the study. So, but don't just introduce your topic. That's because sometimes you just write everything, yeah, and then it doesn't seem like an abstract, yeah. It should be in a clear, write it in a clear idea, which contain why you did the study, what your project was about, how you did it, yeah, and what you have found, what conclusion you drew. Example, your argument. There should be also an argument. Don't just say that was that the relation is significant or not significant. That's not enough. Yeah, you should also state after the findings that you make a conclusion what is and then your argument about your finding. In this abstract, avoid using statistical terms. Yeah, like it's P significant and the P blah blah blah. You know, that's for the result, not for the abstract. Yeah, and then use full block paragraph. Yeah, and then write 3 to 5 keywords and consists of 100 to 200 word summary. But sometimes it depends on the journal. Yeah, we will state how many words for the abstract. We just follow the requirements. And then the introduction or research background. It should contain proposed research problems. It should be brief, precise, but adequate. So this one should also include the gap of knowledge, in which there is an unexplained observation, something not yet analyzed, and something that does not fit traditional beliefs. How did you get the gap of knowledge? Well, of course, you have to read a lot of previous studies. The one with a good reputation, of course, yeah. So this previous studies, of course, should relate to your topic, yeah, that have already addressed, but still have deficiencies in those studies. So primarily from scientific peer-reviewed journal, not a lot of material from the internet. Yeah, you may, but not a lot. Something like newspaper articles or blog, if it is too much also, it's not trustworthy, yeah, and there's no quality of control. This is the example, yeah, how you make your argument in the introduction after reading a lot of quality journal. So the effect of blah, blah, blah has been studied extensively in recent years. Yeah. So it shows your argument. But don't just put the blah, blah, blah is your topic and then without any data. You also have a supporting data. Like you have to cite who said that and then what's the finding. Yeah. And then the continuation can also be like, however, these studies have failed to recognize the blah blah blah. So it shows a strong argument. Another example is there is now much evidence to support the hypothesis that blah blah blah. Then continuation can be, despite the importance of blah, 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 few researchers have studied blah, blah, blah. For why I put the few researchers both, because sometimes researchers will just mention there are few researchers or maybe only nobody has studied this topic, or maybe only very few. Even though few, who are they and what are the findings? Yeah, don't just mention it as if, because by stating that that plain a sentence without any supporting data, it seems that actually you don't read it, you haven't read anything. Yeah. And then another example is, however, it is not clear whether the use of blah, blah, blah can be modified to blah, blah, blah. So you can already put your argument here. Another example is data have been presented in the literature, which shows that blah, blah, blah. And then these differences need to be analyzed, blah, blah, blah. Something like that, yeah. So this is just the example of how to make a good or a strong argument in your introduction. Introduction also should contain significance of the study. So why this study is significant? Why doing it now? What implication of your findings may have? Yeah. But sometimes you replicate, right? If you want to replicate, why you replicate? Because you also have to create something in novel, right? What's the novelty of your research? Even though you're just modifying, you have to give your strong argument. And who will benefit from it? What will it contribute to the existing body of knowledge? Yeah? And then the research objectives. It should be clear statement of your main and subsidiary research objectives. So it should be in the form of explicit statement of what you want to explain or what explanatory factors you will look at. So does it assert whether these findings lead to maintaining, modifying, or replacing your research community understanding of your research topic? So introduction most often include highly condensed literature reviews. Yeah, it has preferably in an article for journal, preferably around 2 to 4 pages. Yeah, so it's really highly condensed. You have to paraphrase the findings that you have already read from the previous studies. Yeah, and what's your conclusion about it, and then what's your argument regarding the previous studies. Yeah. And then literature review. In the literature review, you should place your topic in a scholarly context by reviewing the most relevant scholarly studies by others in the same or and related area. And then provide the critique that illustrates the gaps in the research and not just summaries of books of articles. This is usually what happens, with the researcher. They just make a summary. Yeah, you should provide a critique. Yeah, and then what is there any gap, and then how to come up with it? What will you do in your study? Yeah, to cover the gap. To be up to date, concentrate on the leading articles. Identify practical issues and controversies. Empirical results today. Detail your theory and model being tested. So being up to date means that if you're talking about COVID, that means only 2 years ago, right? Don't use the theory that it's already really outdated. Especially many researchers are talking about, for example, human resource management or organizational behavior, and they're using the book from 19 something. Maybe that's from the high school book or whatever. Yeah, that's already outdated. There are already the new books, right? So use the recent one. Analyze and do not just list. Yeah, there is a distinctive, right, between the analyze and just make a list. So that justify your theoretical approach. Example, concepts are based on Western theories, which might be different from Asia's local wisdom. Yeah, and then remember, the literature review is not just a list of methods used or conclusion made by previous studies. Yeah, so don't make a summary. This is because I oftentimes see, when I review, they're just making a summary. There is no argument. Yeah, the topic is really good, but there's no argument, so it's it's not strong enough. And compare and contrast different authors' view on an issue, criticize aspect of methodology. So you can criticize the methodology as well, not only about the model, yeah. And then note areas in which authors have similar conclusion and disagreement. Highlight exemplary studies or gap in research. Show how your study related to previous study and the literature in general. So this is the argument that you should make, yeah. And conclude by summarizing what the literature says, yeah. So after you make a analysis, yeah, then you can summarize, not just making summary from the beginning. In the literature review, when you already make a very in-depth literature review, you can state the research question, right? This can be derived from the review to build strong proposition or supporting or challenging the findings of previous studies. Yeah, that's why read your literature review from the highly reputable journals, so that you can make a good analysis about that one. Then you come up with the argument. You have to argue about the previous study. And then research method. So in the research method, what is your approach? Is it qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method? I won't talk about this research method in detail, yeah, because I'm sure that somebody has done it. And then research methodology, is it experimental, survey, fieldwork, or others? The population, who will be your population and samples? How will you choose your sample? What strategy? You have to mention it here. And then the data collection instrument, will it be questionnaire, interview guide or schedule, observation reports sheet, or others? And what will be the data analysis procedure? Yeah, you can use SAM or something else. Yeah, it depends on your research question. To justify methods and methodology must be consistent with problem statement. So don't just, so from the beginning, even though you haven't finalized your research question, you already want to, I want to use the SAM and then using LISRA or PLS, whatever. You don't know what's your problem and how can will it be, or can it be can you use that SAM or whatever? You don't know yet, so don't just dream of using it without knowing your problem. Yeah. And then state definition of terms as well in the research method. So you should make a definition of the variables and the dimensions. Yeah. So all of the major concepts you have to put it there, so that the readers will understand what you're talking about, because the readers may be coming from other discipline, right? So you have to make them understand. So preferably this research method around 2 to 4 pages. I'm talking about the article for the journal. Okay, now the result and discussion. First, the result. So you should stick to the questions that relates to the issues under examination. So you should go back to your introduction. What is your research problem? Yeah, this objective, etc. You have to follow that one. Don't make another new material. Don't do that. Yeah. So if in doubt, cut it out. Yeah. Clearly present core data and observation in logical order. Yeah. This is the how to do logical order. Of course, you have to keep reading it again and again. Even though you already sure of what you have written, you have to reread it again from the beginning until the end. Every time you make a new addition, yeah, you have to read it again and again. Traditionally, discussion is not put in the result section, so there will be another section for discussion. But it depends on the journal again. Use summary figures, tables, diagrams, but with meanings. So it's just a tool. Don't just put everything in the table and then you expect the readers to read from your table. No, because the function of tables, diagrams, and it's just for a tool, just to help make us understand. Yeah, you have to write it again the meaning by referring to the number of the table number or figure number. Yeah. So avoid using too much statistical jargon. Yes, we know that you understand how to do it, but don't write too much. You can put it in the appendix. If it is a thesis or a dissertation, you can put it in the appendix or everything, right? But in the body, you have to make it simple, yeah, in a simple way so that everyone can understand. So put numbers of tables so that you can refer when you're writing it in the text. Organize the result logically. So background, for example, background information. First, of course, you put the demographics. Continue with the sequence reflecting the specific objective. Remember, again, you have to follow the public statement. And then give thoughts to headings and subheadings. So even though the subheadings seem simple, but it can refer also to your problem statement. Yeah. Now the discussion. To discuss main findings relating to research objectives written in the previous section. Yeah. So research objective, research statement, you have to refer that all the time. Yeah. So don't talk something else beyond the research objective. Develop logic analysis relating to theoretical background, common empirical findings, and probably specific findings. Having strong literature review make it easier to analyze. Yeah, so you can go back to whatever you have already written. So, but sometimes many researchers, they have already done the literature review very good, and they forgot to go back there. Yeah, and so they're writing something else. That's not a very good analysis then. Stay focused and relate to similar prior research. Yeah, so just the prior research which is related to your topic. Be symmetrical. The empirical result should provide answers to practical, theoretical, and empirical questions. For example, in Asian context. Avoid descriptive results with vague and general claims on the contribution. Usually we just put, in the just descriptive, the mean average is this, and then it is the relation is it's high because it's 0 point blah blah blah. It's too descriptive. You have to also discuss about what does it mean. Try to merge result with much of discussion. Yeah, that's why the result and the discussion should relate. Do not introduce new data, reference, or theory. Yeah, stick to your literature review. So unless compelling reason should be in the literature review. So if it is really different, you have to put it also in the literature review. Yeah. To compare results with those of other studies, so the previous studies that you have read, identify whether this study is in accordance or at odds with previous scientific studies. Now we go to conclusion. The conclusion should answer questions set in introductory section, the research objective and the research statement. State your strongest and most consistent findings. Outline the implication of the findings. Briefly identify contribution. To summarize major contribution of significant studies and articles to the body of knowledge under review. To report any supporting or contrasting findings to previous theoretical or empirical findings. How important is your contribution to the understanding that is currently held on the subject area or niche? We should also put it. Take note, maintain the focus established in the introduction. Avoid introducing new materials or literature. You should state the limitation or problems that you encounter during the research, so that the further study can avoid the same mistake in the later part. And in the conclusion, you can also suggest fruitful avenues for further research and what further studies could be recommended. But don't overdo the last point. And the last one is reference. So in the reference, you have to consistently and strictly follow the style, either one of the manuals here, You can, but once you follow only one, just follow one. Don't, don't choose everything, If it is APA, then follow APA all the way through, Once you put the and it depends also on the journal, The journal will have the manual on how to write the reference. Just follow it strictly. It seems very not very important reference, but it is important because we want to know also whether you cite it from the good source or not, and then whether you cite it correctly or not, because sometimes we just cite and then actually we don't read the reference at all, To use previous journal related to your studies, not more than 10 years from today, especially if like the one I'm saying about the human resource management, organizational behavior, that's always, modified and modified, then not more than 10 years. Write alphabetically in order, with hanging indents. But it depends depends on the journal. But usually it's this way, If it is alphabetically, then it's alphabetically, and you have to check it again and again, And then make sure all the reference in the text must be in the list of reference and vice versa. Because I always find the researcher just use so many the reference, they're very good from good resource. Wow, that's very good. Q1, Q2, oh, that's good. When I look inside, So it's very easier, right? When you just type and then you search whether it's there or not, right? But I cannot find it. And then vice versa. You use something else in the body of text, you cannot find in the reference. That's also about the point for you, the researcher. Okay, now we go to what's next. So before the submission, you have to follow this one. So you have to check every statement. That's why read and read again, check, yeah, from the beginning until the end, even including the reference, everything, the title until the reference, yeah. If you have appendix, including appendix. So supported by evidence, illustration, reference, yeah. Check every bit of the content, paragraphs, sentence, and words. Yeah, because if there is redundancy and repetition, you have to cut it out. Yeah, and you have to make a simple and reduced language if it is not in academic writing, you have to rewrite it again. Yeah, and then take note. Like usually the researcher when they write it, there's a lack of cohesiveness, yeah. So there's a sudden jump from one paragraph to another, yeah. So it is or it seems that just cut and paste, yeah. Cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste, and then when you read it, there's no cohesiveness. That's why you have to read it. You have to feel the flow. Is it in a good flow or not? Yeah. And then typo. Yeah. The spelling, the punctuation. Be careful about this. We are strict about this, yeah, because when you read even a textbook or whatever, you don't want to find a typo, right? If it is this one, maybe it's okay. But if there are many, you will throw the credit, right? English expression as well. Table headings has to be above. Figures should go below. I mean the title, yeah? So you should refer to the latest required citation manual or go to the journal's citation requirement. Okay, any question? I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. It's a really wonderful session, ma'am.
Okay.
And I got my question from the beginning itself because you are from economics background and you worked with someone belongs to microbiology and you have
Okay,
done something.
I am just in the Faculty of Economics and Business, but I am in the Department of Management.
Oh, it's okay. But you worked with some person who is from microbiology and you did something in bacteria,
Right?
and yet these both things are entirely different one. How you did this such an interdisciplinary one research?
Okay. So my colleague from the microbiology, we want to make an analogy from the bacteria. Yeah. So we nowadays you have to do multidisciplines. You can learn from anywhere, anybody, right? Even bacteria. So during COVID, we were thinking what can we share for the community, and what since it's good in bacteria, so let's learn from bacteria. Actually, bacteria belong to the same microorganism with the virus, but COVID is virus, right? The virus is very bad, right? So virus is very bad. So we just was it study or learn from the same family, from the microorganism, because they've been here on Earth billion years ago, and they still survive. Of course, not that their age is billion years of age, yeah, but they can survive by mutation, keep mutating, and then so those who cannot survive, they will die. But those who can survive, then they will continue their life and then mutate again until we find COVID for the virus, right? For the bacteria, we can find the good bacteria, which is the one in the stomach. if you drink Yakult, the lactobacillus, that's a good one, right? So that's why I also we said that let's learn from them. Yeah, actually there are a lot of the good things that we can learn. So, but we just cite five. Yeah, five tips on how to survive in in the dark times. Yeah, like the COVID or crisis, whatever crisis it is. Yeah, maybe I will just give you a tips because it's very simple. Since there are five, so I because I'm from management, so she just give the bacteria to be reset that we can learn from. But I make an abbreviation that to make it easy to understand or to remember. It's K dark. K is key, dark. Dark is darkness. When you find a COVID, you also meet darkness, right? So darkness can be COVID, can be crisis, etc. So the key when you face darkness, A is for creative, D is for discipline, A is for adaptive, R is for resilient, and K, another K is in our language is collaboration. So it's easier to guide. So don't think that I'm talking about the microbiology, but it's a multidiscipline. So we learn from the bacteria to survive in to whatever darkness that we face. I hope I can answer your question.
Yes, you have answered my question, and just I want to know your contribution in that paper.
No, that one is a book. Yeah, actually, it's a book. I'll show you the book. Ay, ay, ay. It's a book. Yeah, it's in Bahasa Indonesia. It's a book. Yeah. So the contribution that is that I want to share or we want to share the tips, the life skill when you face the pandemic, yeah, or maybe other situation which is very dramatic, yeah. So how to survive, yeah, so that you can move on because you have to be resilient. Because resilience is not that how many times that you have failed, but how many times when you face failure, you bounce forward. Yeah. How fast you can bounce forward and move on. Yeah. Because or else you will extinct something like that. And I already shared this book to more than 2,000 books, not only selling but also distributing to the community library in the remote area so that they also can learn life skill.
Okay, whether you have used any theory from management or any concepts from management in that book.
Again,
Whether you used any theory or any concept from management in that book.
yes, I am using like why we don't want to, like I will show you, I will just, it's like the how do you say that? The foundation of health behavior. Why we don't want to maintain cleanliness, something like that. So there's a theory about it, and it's about us when we will change our behavior when we already faced with the when the surrounding the our like our maybe relatives, our neighbors are already affected, then we will change. Or else we don't want to change. That's why there's so many people who don't want to wear masks at the beginning, or they also don't want to keep distance. Yeah, they don't want to be clean. Yeah, they don't want to wash their hands, etc. That's the reason. India. I know India. There are different what's that, the remote area where you during the Delta when I saw that one, oh my God, I can understand what's that, why they cannot maintain or they cannot change their behavior to into in the protocol, the health protocol, yeah, because here also in Indonesia it's so hard also to change the behavior because you don't experience it, and your relatives are not affected or something like that, right? So why change? Why should we follow? Why should we vaccinate it, etc.? So there's also the what's it, the I'm using that kind of things, and then I also what's that saying about that, why the what do you call that, the there is a slow movement, slow process of taking care of this COVID in the beginning, yeah, because we don't we haven't experienced it before with the SARS, the MERS, etc. So we just take it for granted. Well, it will not happen anyway. So that's also the usually the behavior of people, right? When you have an experience and you think that it won't happen, why should I chase? Why should I prevent? Yeah, that's mostly Asian. So not only in India but also in Indonesia or in the Philippines, or etc. If we haven't experienced it, we won't change. If we haven't have the bad things about it, we won't change because it should be what's in it for me. If there's no what's in it for me, why should I change? Something like that. So it's more on the behavior side, yeah. Because I like more on the behavior, yeah. Why they behave this way, yeah. But still in the management.
Okay, very interesting. It's
Yeah.
really very interesting. And
Yeah.
I need that book also. Whether the copy is in English?
Not yet.
Oh,
Indonesian.
yeah, it's very interesting. And your presentation is very wonderful. And really, you inspired me a lot. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, that was Smita.
May I ask?
Sure.
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to know that if we prepare a questionnaire and schedule both in a single research, what points must we keep in mind separately for that?
Again, when you use questionnaire,
And interview schedule both. If we use both for collection of information,
questionnaire
what points?
interview,
Yeah, question as well as questionnaire and interview schedule both in a single research. Then what point we should keep in mind separately for questionnaire and for interview separately? What are the separate? How we will differentiate among them? What
okay.
points we should keep in mind?
I have to what's that, to give you what we call that, to warn you, because you cannot just say that you're using already a mixed method, yeah, by using interview, because if you want to use interview, there should be a base why you have to interview them. And then
Yeah.
if there is a need to interview, you have to also give us you have to prepare the
Okay.
structured question, because sometimes the I find my student or the what's that, the articles that I review, they just put the interview is, it's just a checklist. It's a checklist that we already know the answer, or you already gave the answer. Have you done this? Are you doing this? So it's already during the question. Actually, interview, you should explore from the participant. Don't
Yeah, yeah.
hearing the what's that, the answer,
No.
right?
Uh, for example, if I have a objective that we should collect information from the illiterate peoples, then there I should use the interview schedule. And when the same as information I want to collect from the literate peoples, then how we should maintain the different type of question to gather information from both sides
I
in preparing the
maybe
questionnaire.
like this, yeah, maybe like this. If you want to, because what my suggestion to my student is usually this way. Yeah, I hope that this can answer your question. So my student doing quantitative, so using the questionnaire, and then I told them, if you don't, if you want to know more about the what is the reason behind their answer for the questionnaire, you can ask an open question, yeah, open question.
Open-ended question. Open-ended question. Yeah.
Yeah, but it should be related to the topic that we are talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should write open
Then we have to give the enough space so they
yeah,
can write.
enough space.
Huh.
Yes.
Yeah. Enough space.
Nowadays
We
it's
should
not
provide them.
Now
But
it's
if
not
it's a close-ended
long
question,
long paragraph, right? So it's easy now.
yeah,
So it has to be an open and it has to be open
end questions. Yeah.
respond, not just picking the answer. So by doing so, at least you can pick the related one, and that can be used for discussion. Yeah, don't use everything. Yeah, because sometimes they answer out of the box, really not related to your topic. So you should pick
Yeah.
the one related to your topic. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
can
we should provide some points. You have to correct them, whichever suitable for you or not.
yes, something like that. Rather than telling that you are using a mixed method, which might
Yeah.
not you might not do it actually you're not doing it. You can use an open question
Ended
for
question.
the
Yeah,
for
not close-ended question.
yeah, something like that.
Ma'am, in this, is it necessary to the questionnaire should be tested
Yes,
before you?
yes, with the similar respondent, yeah,
Yeah.
30, at least 30, right? 30 respondent. So that because even though you because you have to translate it to Indian, right?
Yeah.
To your language. So you have to make sure that they understand the content of the questionnaire. Because sometimes when we translate, we lose the translation. Yeah. So we have to double check. Yeah. So that's why we have to do the pre-test.
And for the questionnaire, it is also necessary to be get acceptance or approval by some experts,
Yeah.
military expert.
If you have it's better that way, so that it will be what's that when you want to submit your article to the good journal, you already say that it's already being translated by a certified translator, blah blah blah, and it's being back translated and it doesn't lose its meaning. It will be additional point for your article, and it can be accepted.
It's not necessary to to approved by the supervisor or guide.
As long as because if the translation is really totally different, it might lose
Yeah.
the essence, right? But if you think that your supervisor is also a very good
Yeah, expert,
expert,
expertise or
you can
knowledgeable person,
you
then
can
we can get approval from him also, him or her also. Yeah. Thank you very much. I got it. Okay. Thank you once again.
anybody else? Anybody else? It seems I already answered your curiosity. Go back to you.
So any more questions from the participant side? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a question.
please again.
Uh,
Smita?
Yeah, in the discussion part, in the slide you have explained, in the discussion, in the conclusion part, we have to give the contribution, right? I have a question, that is whether we want to show our contribution in conclusion or in the discussion part.
It should be in the conclusion, because your contribution should not be very long. Contribution to the what is it, to the theoretical, to the body of knowledge. Yeah. If you want also to give a contribution to the policymaker, yeah, that will also be good. But in the conclusion, that means it has to be very brief. In the discussion, if you write too much about the contribution, you will get lost for sure. It has to be in the conclusion.
Okay, the future reference, that means the future.
Doing first. Wait. Sorry. Yes, again.
The future contribution, I mean, the future research area, where should I mention it? In conclusion part or in some other way?
In the conclusion as well. In the conclusion.
Oh,
But
thank
of
you.
course, you have to have a discussion about the related. What is it about it, so that you can make a further study. Don't just write something that you haven't discussed at all. Yeah. But the discussion for further research, it has to be related to your findings. Yeah. Then later on, you the problem or whatever you found in the discussion, then you can make a further study, something like that.
May
Okay,
I
thank you.
ask one more question, ma'am?
Sure.
Ma'am, I want to know that in abstract, we should not write findings
You should not.
in a very summarized form. In abstract, we should not include findings, main findings, in a very concise form,
Again,
or we should include.
we should include the
We should include, no? Finally, yeah.
we should.
Yeah. Or probability for further research, this may be included in the methodology section.
No, further research, not in the methodology.
No,
It's
no,
in
no.
the conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
In conclusion section.
Yes. Yeah. So if you still confused, you have to.
No, we in methodology section there are steps. How we proceed step by step for our whole overall research work, and at the end we put the probabilities for further research from my research while reporting the research.
Maybe you
Yeah.
problem.
In India, in our university, we used to put at the last, after limitation, what are the limitation of my studies? I write first, and then at the end we wrote from my studies what are the probabilities to further research for other research scholar or further researcher.
Yeah. But
There also we used to put.
but
Is it not wrong? It is wrong.
Yeah. The limitation, you should also put limitation.
Yeah, in methodology section, we should write overall things from beginning how we are going step by step for the whole overall research.
Yeah.
And at the end, at the end, we write the limitation of my present research. Then after that, we include this also. And from my research, what are the probabilities for further research for another researcher? It is not right.
If you already write the limitation in your
Yeah, in my present research, this is
No.
the limitation of my research, and for further research, other can
Listen to me
take
first.
the guide or take the yeah.
Listen to me first. If you write the limitation in your methodology, you will rewrite it.
Not methodology, ma'am. Overall research from where to where I am going to do my research. And yeah, I have completed the research at the time of reporting. Overall work, when we report in writing, report writing, research report writing, then
Mhm.
if the methodology saving, what are the points, what are the steps we have followed, we should write in a reporting form. And then there also we should mention one thing. We used to mention that limitation of my research is limited this, and till this. And again, we provide further guidelines. Then from there you can.
Reporting form. What is reporting forms? I didn't get it.
We should not do this. Is it wrong?
No, I mean, I didn't get when you say reporting research.
Yeah. In overall research work, there are so many chapter reporting the research in the thesis research, PhD research. When we report writing in writing, then there are the chapters. First chapter is introduction. Second, we should include the review of literature, all over we have collected. And third one is the detailed description of methodology we have followed.
Yeah.
So in this section only, we at the end we include that the my research is limited in this area, and another researcher maybe from there onwards they can do, and we can elaborate in this section.
In the research method, usually is the sorry, is the method that you are using in your study. So don't if you want to say that in the previous study they use this, you can mention that, but not very too much. You just and then
Not theory. Not in details.
yeah.
That's the enlarging the scope area, enlarging the sample area, or area of research, like that.
And if you also find difficulties, maybe you can already start saying about the problem so that later on in the conclusion you can see you can mention about the limitation of this study. You have to mention it a bit in the
Okay.
related to the methodology. You have to start writing in the research method. Yeah.
Yeah.
While writing about the steps by step.
Yeah, steps by from the topic to everything, sample design and research method. What actually I have adopted, what are the methods, and from what are the tools I have used, all these things.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. In your slides, you show that in the abstract section we shouldn't use any statistical things. But I have seen in certain abstract they have shown they are using SPSS or Excel, and in certain abstract I have seen 26% of the population belongs to so and 50% are affected by so and so. Can you explain this?
Where did you read that? Is it from a good journal?
I don't know, but I have read it.
That's why you have to refer to a good journal. Yeah. So the Q1 or the Q2, where you can find it from the, you can identify it through the CIMA Good Journal ranking. Because if you just read any kind of journal and we don't know whether they're good or not, so there are a lot of things that they can, you get confused. Even from
It depends upon the researcher's quality.
yes, that's why. That's why read from the good journal. So from by
Okay, in
lot of good journal, then at least you got the feel. Oh, this is the way I have to do. Yeah, something like that.
okay, certain abstract I have seen they have used Prisma model or Pico models. Whether we can include that? Yeah.
Yeah, but
In
if,
abstract,
if they're just saying about the model, it's okay. But if they start saying about it includes this percentage of whether it's very detailed, that will be too much because we don't need that one. We will read it in the later part, right? The abstract, it's just a summary of what we have done from the beginning until the end. Remember that it's sometimes they will just require 200 words. It's words, yeah. Not
yeah, yeah. Now I got it.
Anybody else?